Here's a good lesson and maybe a reminder on why you should never assume anything on a vehicle or on a system on a vehicle that you've never worked on before. I think particularly when you've, accumulated a lot of years of experience and worked on, a number of different makes and models where a particular system is the same, you tend to assume that they're all the same. So this is the blower motor circuit diagram for a 2017 expedition. And on the one I worked on recently, the problem was the blower motor was intermittent. So my initial check, I, turned it on and tried all the different speeds. It was not coming on. So I did a quick tap test with my hand on the core box, and after some light tapping, it came on and stayed on. Then after a few minutes, with the vehicle sitting, just stationary, not moving, engine not running, no vibration of any kind, it just went off for a couple seconds and then came back on a couple seconds later, and it stayed on for a few minutes, and then it would do this, a number of times intermittently. And I thought that's odd. So I checked the connection going to the blower motor, make sure there was no loose connection there. I wiggled the connector. It didn't seem to make any difference while it was running. But then I discovered that if I wiggled the harness, the wiring harness coming out of the blower motor connector, a few inches past the connector, that seemed to make a difference. That would cut it on and off. And I discovered that the problem is not at the blower motor, connector terminals. There's no loose connection there, but it goes to the blower motor resistor, and apparently at the blower motor resistor, that connector, if you wiggle that, it's you just barely touch it, it'll come on and off. There's a definite loose connection there. And I thought that was odd because I initially assumed that this vehicle had manual climate control and it therefore had a conventional blower resistor, as you see here. And on max speed, of course, the resistor is out of the circuit because the motor is getting a direct path to ground. And so I thought, and since I had put it on max speed, I thought that's odd. Why would the resistor have any effect if it's on max speed? So I looked at the diagram, and it's showing the yellow green is the power feed to the blower motor. That was right, but the ground for the blower motor is showing as a violet orange here, but on the vehicle I was working on, it was a yellow blue. I thought that's odd. And then the blower motor resistor wire colors, they were just all different, completely wrong. I thought this is odd. What's going on here? So I decided to look at the diagram for the automatic climate control, and I discovered that was a correct diagram. So I had mistakenly assumed that this vehicle had manual climate control and therefore a conventional blower resistor. But the automatic climate control which this vehicle has, it has what's called a blower control module. And apparently it's some kind of electronic device. Exactly how it works, I don't know, because I couldn't find information about that in the service data. But as you can see, it's got a blower control input coming from the control module. It's got the ground path for the blower motor. It's got a ground to it, and it's got part of a power feed from the motor going as an input to it also. So in this system, even at max speed, that control module, the motor path to ground goes through that control module. So when I disconnected that connector, I saw that inside it was on the black, white, and the yellow, blue. Black, white is the ground for the module, and yellow, blue is the ground for the motor. Those two terminals, let's see if you can see this. Yeah, it's the one on the two terminals on the left. You can see it's burned up here. And like I said, this connector, when you slid it on, it was very loose. And even when it was plugged in, you could wiggle it just slightly, it would come on and off. And so I knew that, I had a connection problem here. This connector was bad, and apparently this is a very widely used um, connector on a wide variety of different Ford vehicles. And apparently, this is a common problem for them to get, I guess, loose and burned up because you can get the both from the factory and aftermarket replacement pigtails. So I got a replacement pigtail, wired that in, solved the problem. But this is the lesson of on never assume anything, because every automatic climate control system I can remember coming across, it usually has a digital display, and this one did not. And so for that reason, I assumed it was manual, and it was a wrong assumption that luckily it didn't cost me too much time. But you know, it's a good lesson on always check service data to make sure you understand the system you're working with. But as far as this connector here, the only way I can figure that these terminals can get loose is the fact that these are very heavy gauge wires, and there is no, you can look inside, there is no strain relief or anything supporting the wire at the end inside the connector housing. So basically, with enough cycles of vibration like this heavy gauge wire is going to work that terminal loose. So I don't know why they do not put some kind of strain relief, in the end of the connector housing, because that would solve this problem. But yeah,